Hello and welcome to this episode of The Diary of a Lawyer. And today I want to cover um, a legal development in Canada, Quebec in particular, where a judge in Quebec gave the go-ahead for a class action lawsuit over the forced sterilization of Indigenous women in the Canadian province of Quebec. And this involves two women from the Atikameku tribe, which is spelled Atikamekw, who are known only publicly by their initials as UT and MX, who brought the lawsuit against three doctors they accused of performing a coercing a coercion into sterilization procedures in a small remote town in northern Quebec. The community health agency and hospital are also named in the lawsuit, seeking compensatory and punitive damages. The women accuse the health organization of systemic prejudice against the Atikameku patients, which they say enabled the doctors to operate without first obtaining consent. Justice Lucas Kronosik wrote in a judgment released this week that it is quite possible to argue that sterilizing a woman without her free and informed consent constitutes a civil fault, ethical misconduct, a criminal act, and a violation of Quebec's Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms. I think I would extend that to any form of human rights charter all over the world. He ruled that all Atikamek women who were forcibly sterilized at that location from 1980 onwards could be included in the action. Partners, caregivers, children, grandchildren, and other rightful heirs are also included. According to the file, UT and MX each gave birth 5 times at a local hospital and say their fallopian tubes were cut open upon their 5th deliveries, which in both cases were done by cesarean section. UT said she neither consented to the procedures nor was informed that it had been done according to the action. MX said she was coerced to consent to tubal ligation during the birthing process, and she did not provide free and informal consent. The two plaintiffs referred to a third woman in their group who was allegedly subjected to coercion and sterilization through coercion. It's important to note that Canada has a long history of forcibly sterilizing Indigenous people, particularly women. As leading experts observe, such as Karen Stott, that the coerced sterilization of Indigenous women is connected to the broader context of colonialism. It is also one of many forms of violence that has been visited on the Indigenous community. I think we remember there's an ongoing case around the children in relation to the Catholic Church who were abducted, were taken from their parents, forced into these so-called boarding schools, and some of them were buried in graves. It's an ongoing issue. And they identified hundreds of cases of forced or coerced sterilization, including some from the past few years. In 2021, a Canadian Senate report highlighted a significant power imbalance between Indigenous women and their doctors, which it said was complicated by language and cultural barriers. It said these barriers sometimes led women to sign consent forms they did not understand. The 3 Quebec doctors in the new class action suit, who are also referred to only by their initials, have argued that requiring consent would interfere with the right of doctors to make their own decision when delivering care to patients. So that in a nutshell, is the issue of the sterilized women in Quebec, Canada, where a judge has given a go-ahead for a lawsuit over sterilization of Indigenous women. And so there we shall leave it on this episode of The Diary of a Lawyer. Thanks for listening or watching. We shall speak again. Thank you. Bye.